the upgrading of the Land Tenure Rights Amendment Bill. We had fruitful engagement this morning, hearing from traditional leaders, people in rural communities and CPAs, and representatives of NGOs in rural communities that gave their insight and submission rights on this ultra bill. We will now proceed with our afternoon session this morning, and see as to how we proceed. People in rural communities. Let me request from the Secretariat to see as to who are the people that are ready to proceed and make submissions on this ultra bill.
Thank you, Chair.
We will now proceed
From the people that
as to who are the people that
speak
are
this
ready to
afternoon,
proceed and make submissions.
Thank you,
already. We have Nelson from Race Republican. We have David Baga from and Neville Bosimati program. I don't think it's from me, but he's trying to come in and go.
We also have Mr. Mabunda Vasco. Apparently, there were questions for him previously, which he could not respond to. He connected back. If we can give him as well to respond to those. We also have Mr. Mabunda Vasco. Apparently, there were questions for him previously, which he could not respond to. He connected back. If we can give him as well to respond to those. We also have Mr. Mabunda Vasco. Apparently, there were questions for him previously, which he could not respond to. He connected back.
An agent eviction.
Sorry, Chair, we can't hear Mr. Manenze. We can't hear Dr. Manenze.
Oh, okay.
He keeps breaking.
Okay, sorry about that. I was just going through the list of speakers and say, apart from the 4 that have confirmed that they will be speaking this afternoon, the rest that have not spoken on the list, some of them are not, we can't get through, some of them are not responding to our calls. We have Miss Leni Kotsie from Women on Farms. There's an urgent eviction matter in the Northern Cape that they are dealing with their land rights NGO in the Northern Cape. So we'll try and reschedule and see if we can bring on tomorrow or Friday. Yeah, so we have all the 4, which we suggest that the committee takes this afternoon, and the committee can decide how it proceeds after this 4. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Manenje. If I may request you to send me the list of those presenters on my WhatsApp channel, so we can be able to call the names of the presenters that are ready to proceed. But I can see that Mr. Vasco Mabunda is still with us, and therefore I will immediately, honorable members, afford him an opportunity to respond to the questions that were posed by honorable members. Ntate Mabunda. Ntate Mabunda.
Thank you, Chair.
Proceed, my good sir.
I never got to hear the question. I only hear that there were questions that were directed to me. If your honorable sir permits, can the questions be repeated so that I can be able to deal with them? Thank you.
Anyamza. Mama Nyamza.
Chair?
Can I request you to read up the questions that were posed to Mr. Mabunda by the honorable members?
I'm not sure when, Chair, maybe it was during the time I was on the road traveling from home to the office.
Yes, and the rest of the staff, anyone noted and jotted down the questions that were posed directly to Mr. Mabunda?
Yes. So my colleagues, Nokuzola, Tembisa, and Nontobeko can add. But the crux of the issues were around the proposals, the key proposals that Mr. Mabunda is making to the committee around land tenure regime, particularly when he addressed issues of ownership of land in communal areas where there are traditional councils and the land is held in trust by the minister. There's a whole debate about transfer to individuals. And I think members wanted to hear a concrete response to, in terms of what happens when land is being transferred. I think a lot of questions, revolved around that.
Thank you. Mam Tashe.
Chair?
Yes, Mam Tashe.
I think one of the issues that was highlighted by Mr. Mabunda was that the bill should give autonomy to traditional authorities, and members wanted for him to explain what kind of autonomy would that be.
Thank you.
Where land administration will be given to traditional authorities.
Nkosi Mam Tashe, Mam Pepeteka.
Okay, in addition, the other issue was around the levies, because members wanted to know who are the levies paid to and for what, and who's responsible for administration of the levies. I think that's one, yeah. Yes, I think, yeah, in addition to what the manager Nokuzola raised.
Mam Kwabe. Mama, can I request you to mute your microphone, and Honorable Tapa, please mute your microphone. Mam Kashe. Mam Kwabe, you are the last one. Mam Kwabe. Dr. Mabunda, you may proceed with the questions then as put to us from our content advisors as well as the researchers. Dr. Mabunda, please proceed.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. I do not even want to pretend that I understand everything, I mean, as it was originally put. But from the little understanding that I have from the question, let me deal with the three that are, that I think I understood. On the question of levies, here we're not advocating for tribal levies as in the apartheid era, but there's a realization that there are big businesses that are making money in rural communities. These businesses, all they ever do is just to pay maybe the fee that's paid when they apply to use the land, perhaps 100,000, 50,000, or maybe 10,000, depending on factors that they are actually considered. But once, for example, you've got big shops, I don't want to mention them, they're operating in the village. Since they pay that 100,000, they never pay a cent back to the communities. It is those that we are targeting. It is not the poor woman who lives in a house, and we're not advocating that people who reside in rural areas should actually, who have their residence and houses should pay. No, we are saying that there are big businesses that are making money and they should pay those levies to the tribal authority. And then on the question of autonomy, from a distance, it seems okay, tribal authorities are able to administer their land, are able to make decisions on how the land will be used and who will get the land. Well, this has been an area of contestation as to whether traditional authorities should be able to administer the land. But the reality on the ground, those of us who come from rural villages, like myself, will tell you that this is the case. But while they are at the cold phase of land administration or allocating land and stuff like that, the fact it's for each and every decision they have, each and every important decision they have to go to the Department of Rural Development and Land Reform, or alternatively to the municipality. So there should be very clear guidelines as to when they could. There should be some powers and administrative duties are allocated to them. The purpose here is to ensure that developments are speedily done, and they're done in such a way that the ordinary people are able to accrue benefits from this transaction, from any transaction that it's entered to by the traditional authority. And what happened when land is transferred? I mean, I think this, to my understanding, will have been covered by my previous response to say that there's a lot of red tape that hampers administration and create a vacuum where the corrupt officials are able to utilize that space in order to milk the system, so that the system became a milking cow instead of becoming a vehicle through which development of the rural space could be achieved. I thank you.
Thank you, Mtate Mabunda, for your responses. Honorable members, that concludes then the questions for clarity that were posed in our earlier session. We will now proceed with the rest of the...
Can I quickly add something, Chief? Very quickly,
okay,
if you allow me.
Yeah, we shall. Please proceed.
I know, okay. I know there's been concern that in some instances or in some areas, traditional authorities or members of the traditional authorities have been accused of human rights abuses. I can attest to the reality of those allegations. But that is not a land tenure right issue. That's an issue for law enforcement. That's an issue for law enforcement, and should they contest it is a law enforcement, it's not fair. Where we come from,
difficulty in hearing your response. It seems we are beginning to have network challenges again on your side.
Can you hear me now, Chair?
Yes.
Okay. I was concluding. I was saying that it will be most unfair to take a case study of one traditional authority that has that has or seemed to have transgressed the law, and to use it as a way to deprive traditional authorities of their constitutional mandate. Remember, they are constitutional creatures, and they've got they've got a constitutional mandate. In order to do that, they need to be given the space without being given. That shouldn't amount to violating other people's rights. But as it stands, it is the model that has worked and continues to work in order to stabilize and develop the rural area. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mabunda. Honorable members, I will request we proceed with this afternoon's presentation, and therefore would like the Secretariat to call up the first person.
Chair.
Manyamza.
Abakho abantu Chair abakangeni.
Okay.
For bangena bephuma Chair. Andiyazi kwenzeka ntoni noba yi-network nabo yi-4. Uhlakale Naomi Phala. NguSelbino Mnganga. Nancy Nantise. Ibe nguNkosinathi Soga wesakhe isizwe.
If you get any of the above, just one of them, please do highlight so we may proceed.
Okay.
It's the nature of our virtual public hearings. We will be experiencing network problems and also difficulty of locating people. This is why as a result of COVID, having to adhere with COVID regulations, we will have a number of these challenges. But I want to appeal to honorable members to bear with us as we try and locate the speakers and get this process underway. We also are in a scenario where you've had over 480 submissions in terms of requests to make oral presentations. And now we must try and locate each and every one of them to be given and afforded an opportunity to address the portfolio committee. So we will be reliant on our secretariat and our staff to get this process underway. If I may ascertain, is there any other person that has been able to join who would like to present? Kindly raise your hand or indicate. So we may take those that are already ready and are with us. These public hearings on the upgrading of the Land Tenure Rights Amendment Bill are to afford the public an opportunity to be able to make their submissions to the portfolio committee so that we can be able to have ensured in this process we have crisscrossed the landscape of South Africa and ensured that the vast majority of the affected people have been able to have their voices heard. And this is why, honorable members, it requires our patience to make sure that those that have indicated their wish to present, we afford them the opportunity to do so. Therefore, want to beg for your indulgence as we try and locate these presenters.
Hi, Chair.
Mayamza?
Asikabi namntu tata.
Okay. Honorable members, as coming from the Secretariat, we may seem to be challenged this afternoon to proceed as we are finding it difficult to locate our presenters as per the schedule that was put before us. We may need to then adjourn this meeting and proceed tomorrow and give the opportunity to our staff to locate these speakers. We were under the assumption that with 480 people that have made submission to make oral presentations, we would have this presentation running back to back. We seemingly are finding it difficult to locate them, and therefore would want to put it to yourselves as what the way forward.
Chair,
Yes, Manyams.
there is one participant who just joined us, Chair.
Okay. Can you invite them to come on board? Ntate David Ramoha Nwe. If I'm pronouncing it correctly, you will pardon me for misrepresenting you, but I'm certain in your introduction you can correct us. Let us welcome you to the Portfolio Committee on Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development on these public hearings on the upgrading of land tenure rights amendment bill. Please proceed and tender your submission. Oh, you're not sitting alone, you have a full team with you. Please feel free to proceed. We're still trying, honorable members, to find the perfect position and perfect network for Ntate David Ramohanwe. Hopefully we can be able to be successful on that. Ntate, please proceed. You can unmute your microphone and proceed. Please unmute your microphone. Ntate David, please unmute your microphone.
Chairperson.
Good afternoon, Ntate. How are you?
I'm all right. Apologies for delayment due to technicalities.
No worries. Here for you. Please feel free and proceed.
Yeah, Chairperson, my submission regarding the Ultra Bill is that the Constitution of South Africa, Chapter 2, Basic Bill of Rights, it's very clear when it comes to the issue of right regarding both males and females. But now I'm going to focus specifically on the issue of things that are being diverted by the legislation, specifically the Ultra Bill. One, it is that most of the time females are actually sidelined or are prejudiced in as far as them accessing land. That is one issue that is important. The people that are most regarded when it comes to acquiring of land are the male people. That has been actually perpetuated by the previous regimes, starting from colonialism, apartheid, and the Bantustans regimes. So that has actually opened up a gap when it comes to the issue of land being acquired by both actually males and females. If you look at the 1913 Land Act, only 7% of the land was given to Black people. And that was followed by the 1936 Land Act, which only increased land ownership to Black people by 6%, which made up total of 13%. Now it is very much clear that the gap in as far as land acquisition for us Black people, there's still a gap that needs to be closed. If you look at the current promulgated Ngonyama Trust, that trust was promulgated during the era of CODESA. It was a bargaining between the Inkatha Freedom Party, the ANC, and the National Party. Because IFP didn't want to go to the elections. They had to actually compromise to the fact that we will actually hand over this particular piece of land to Ngonyama Trust. And now, the very same Ngonyama Trust, there is a problem that the women there at KZN and KwaZulu-Natal are not actually owning the land. Even though their husbands have passed on, that particular inheritance in terms of heredity is not taking place in terms of Ngonyama Trust. And that is the only act that has been promulgated for that particular province only. When you go to other provinces, there's no such that is taking place. The other important matter that I would like to raise is that most of the title deeds that are belonging to the chiefs, they are called actually the grants. Such actually needs to be converted to title deeds, because when they bought communities, when they bought lands during those years, they had to actually get a missionary to buy the land on behalf of the communities. Black people couldn't buy land on their own during those years. So you have to get missionaries to buy for you. And the other problem that is exacerbating this particular situation is the issue of trustship. The trusteeship was vested actually during those particular years to the Secretary of the Native Affairs. Such has been cascaded down to the current minister in trust, meaning that actually we as communities, we cannot take decision when we want to do anything with our land. We need to get actually the permission of the minister who is a trustee. The other issue that I would like to highlight is the issue of the chiefs. The chiefs are deemed to be the custodians of the land. But what is happening is that our chiefs are not playing that particular role. They are actually, people are taking decisions on behalf of the communities, and which is supposed to be vice versa. The communities are the ones who are supposed to take decisions on their land by passing a resolution, and that actually is supposed to be empowering the chiefs to say, with this particular resolution from my community, I can therefore implement, or I can therefore proceed with the money that I've been given. But currently that is not the case. The chiefs are the only sole people that have got the powers and mandate to dictate and they take resolutions when it comes to the end. I would like to cite the recently promulgated TKLA. Section 25 thereof also gives us a problem because it seeks to give the chiefs the powers to take decisions on behalf of communities with their own land. So that is being a problem from all along. And I'm saying this is supposed to change because now we are saying the government that we voted for into power, it is the government that understands our struggles from colonialism, from apartheid, from the TBVC state. And therefore we expect that they're supposed now to implement. The problem is that there's a problem with implementation. We've got actually so many legislations that are actually confusing. And some of them, we keep on repealing them. Others are actually temporary, like IPILRA. It's actually temporary legislation. It cannot protect people because it must be renewed actually annually. So we need to come up with legislation that must protect us Black people, that must protect the females, that even must protect our girls. Because as we pass on, our young people must take over or assume power. So if ever I'm a father having only daughters, when I pass on, does that mean that my daughter cannot assume authority of the state that I left for her? It's totally unfair. So vividly, that will be actually my submission because of, if you take into consideration, even our leaders, I will quote the late Chief Albert Lechuli. He was also fighting the issue of capturing of chiefs by the elites. So that is a problem. So that is being perpetuated by our current government. They are controlling the chiefs. We know that our chiefs, some of the chiefs cannot actually sustain themselves. They depend from government for them to be sustainable. But that does not mean that government must dictate terms to our chiefs. That is the problem. In a nutshell, that is my submission, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Dr. David Ramohanwe. Manyamza and the content advisors and our staff, any other presenters?
Yes, Chair, there's one just, I have just admitted, is Mr. Selby Nomgaka.
Selby?
Yes.
Nomganga. Molweni Bau Selby Nomganga. Are you with us? Bau Selby Nomganga. Are you with us? Baunom Ganga, are you with us? Seems he's still trying to connect to audio. Bauselbi Nomganga, are you with us? Selby Nomganga, have you managed to join us? Honorable members, in the meantime, can we proceed with the presentation that was put to us by Dr. David, so that we may be able to release them and not lose them while we await? Dr. David, are you still with us? Dr. David, are you still with us?
Hello.
Selby seems to unmuted himself, Chair.
Selby Nomganga. Hello? Selby Nomganga. Are you with us?
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Yeah. No, I'm fine, thanks yourself, sir.
We are very well,
Can you hear me?
Nomganga. Yes, we can hear you well.
Okay.
You may proceed and do your presentation. If network allows, please switch on your video so we can see you.
I don't know how this thing. Can you see me now?
Not yet.
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you on our side. We're just waiting for you to switch on your video. Failure of which we will have to proceed without the video.
I'm trying, but I don't know what the problem is here. But I can see you.
Well, it's good, then you can see us. If you are unable to put your video, please feel free to proceed, Nomganga. Then we will just rely on the audio.
Okay, thanks. Well, my submission is from a perspective of a person who stays in the Northern Cape province. I've agreed to the approach that individual freedom is at the core of our Ubuntu, and not forgetting that the philosophy and the outlook in life of Ubuntu emanates from a patriarchal era. But nonetheless, the question of food equality should be extended to all persons equally. So, but when one listens to the debates about the land, you would think that we are about to run out of land And so most of the focus tends to be on the land already in use. Well, it ought to be like that when the historical redress issues are concerned, as far as they were as a result of the fraud of colonialism, discrimination, and exploitation. So as far as the redistribution is concerned, earlier, past 94, in my neck of the world, people opted for the financial compensation. And that has led to a failure in ending spatial apartheid and poverty. Instead, people are much poorer now, not only financially and in terms of resources, but emotionally they feel completely defeated because they took an option that was not in line with addressing and redressing the inequities of the past. And so I think the land tenure issue, Land Tenure Act, should be about restoring a healthy relationship of the people to the land. In that land should be used to create sustainable economies. As we know that diseases were part of the land dispossession process, where smallpox wiped out whole populations. So in today's COVID-19 exposes us how vulnerable we are. So in the absence of a vaccine, the best bet we have is to stay home. But we can't stay home without food, and we can't stay home without water. It's not possible at all. So the virus reminds us that local production of food is not only good for the environment, but it's also good for our health, for our welfare, and our well-being. So it is for this reason that we should look at the question of land tenure and land restitution. And into that, land should, as I said, there should be a healthy relationship between us humans and Mother Earth. So in other words, we shouldn't be poisoning the earth with chemicals. We should look at sustainable means of extracting a living from the land. And we should look at sustainable means of living off the land by extracting the minerals that we need in some of the commodities that needs to be produced. And so subsistence farmers in my part of the world have been farming on commodities for more than 20 years. But all along they lack institutional support, and that lack of that institutional support hampers their growth prospect. Part of the problem is that there is lack of security on the land. That is the tenure security. And added to that is that state employees not allowed on communities are using their proximity to the political system to muscle out the struggling farmers. Hence, I would suggest that the land tribunal, with participation from civil society, communities, and the necessary technical and other professional skills, should constitute such a body at a local municipal level, so that it will be easy for people to go and lay complaints if they do have. It will be easy for people to go and seek support for the work that they do, without people having to for lawyers by going through the established channels. In that way, procedural and substantive justice can be built into the process. And the rights to the land should rather be open-ended instead of mere ownership. What I mean by that is that the individual title is important. It is important that it gives the person the assurity, the confidence to work the land, knowing that they've got access to that land for as long as they need it. So in other words, if they no longer need it, they should then avail it for the common good, I would suggest. And therefore a holistic focus on institutional support is necessary in order to encourage individual drive and initiative. And I'll also go further and say that, suggest that for every child that is born, let's say now in 2020, the birth certificate should already indicate the person, the child, his or her title deed, so that the person, the individual, after 18 years, should be able to go to the municipality and ask that he or she be accorded a piece of land for shelter, if it is for shelter or if it is for productive activities. In that way, people can choose to enter into cooperatives. Enter into cooperatives, they've got a piece of land of which they can use in the co-op in order to increase economies of scale if necessary. But if they're not interested, they can have the land they can use for themselves and their families. And so when people then find themselves in domestic relationships and a domestic relationship doesn't work out, so they don't have to fight over the land on which the shelter is built, whereby each and every person has got a piece of land where they can continue to live their lives in dignity, where their privacy is protected. And so the Constitutional Court does remind us, especially the lawmakers, to get rid of apartheid legislation. So that's why I think today we are here talking about land tenure. And from time to time, those that have fought and died in a struggle against apartheid, their names are brought up in order to talk up, in order to encourage the human rights culture. And I think it's also going to be necessary for this current parliament to look far ahead by writing a law, not following really the template set by the apartheid and colonial systems, but write a law that connects people to the land, that looks at the question of sustainability, local production of economies, food for people at their own areas, their own districts, their own local municipalities. So I think that is the direction we need to take, and that is the direction that the COVID-19 crisis pandemic exposes us to, that we need to look local, we need to protect the environment, whilst we look at sustainable livelihoods for ourselves. I thank you. I hope I'm clear.
Thank you, Paul Selby, Nomganga. Honorable members, just if I may ascertain from our secretariat and the content advisors, is Mr. Nelson Hantise available, as well as Nkosinati Soga. Any of the two presenters, have they joined us? If not, honorable members, I will suggest we proceed so that we can be able to see when they will be able to join. But I think for now, let us proceed on the two presentations we have received from Tate David Ramo Honwe, as well as Tate Selby Nomgak. I will start with Honorable Kape. If our presenters can please note the questions, then I will give you an opportunity to respond once the honorable members have asked their questions. Honorable Kape. Honorable Marco.
Yeah, I think she was speaking muted.
Honorable Kape, your microphone seems to be muted. Can you unmute your microphone? Honorable Kape. You may proceed, Metlape. We are having difficulty in hearing you, Honorable Kape. Can you try again, Metlape? Honorable Kape. The Honorable Mahlo, Mahlo.
Thank you, Chair. Do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you very much. Chair, I don't have any question for now, as I have missed most of my presentations because of my network. I'm very sorry about that, but nevertheless, I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable State.
Thank you, Chairperson, and thank you to the presenters. Chairperson, I just want to find out one question of clarity to Mr. Ramohonwe. He spoke about the land that was bought by the missionaries I know, I am aware of that. I want to find out if they would have a record of that land, and if we ask or request for that information, and so that we can also follow up on that issue. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Matthias. Honorable Matthias. Honorable Briet.
Thank you, Chairperson. I am covered.
Thank you, Honorable Mahlati.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm covered as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Honorable Mbabama.
Thank you, Chair. I actually am thankful for the two presentations. I think they were quite explicit. And the gentleman spoke about things that are quite important, especially when coming to the land question. However, with both of them, I did not quite hear what their stance was towards the bill that we are talking about. I understand Mr. Sabino Mganga from the Northern Cape talking to very important issues, sustainability, making sure that the environment, and all those important things. But I did not hear the connection. He couldn't, I couldn't quite get the connection and what his stance is on the bill that we are talking about. And Dr. David from Bujanala District Municipality, the same thing as well. He talks to too much legislation going on, and the legislation needs to protect our girls. He talks to capturing of chiefs by the elite and by government. He talks about Ngonyama Trust being problematic, and title deeds belonging to chiefs are called deeds of grant, but he does not link Ultra to what he's saying. So could they both please try and link or give us their stance on the bill we have in front of us today, or the amendment of the act? Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Mamun Babama. Honorable Masipa.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks to the presenters. I think I'm pretty covered with the questions raised by Honorable Mbabama. I think if we can get a clarity around their stand with regards to this particular bill, whether they are supporting the amendment of this bill or they object to it. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Masipa. Is there any other honorable member I've missed out who may wish to put a question? I will now take this opportunity to hand back to our presenters for responses on the questions of clarity that have been posed by the honorable members. Dr. David, you may proceed. Dr. David. While we're trying to locate Dr. David, can we then call on Ubausel Binom Ganga to please proceed with responses on the questions posed by honorable members?
Chair, Namganga here, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Please proceed.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the questions. I think let me state my position this way. I support what the Constitutional Court said, that the apartheid relics within the Act should be removed and be written in such a way that they are consistent with the Constitution, that is consistent with the right to equality. I do not think and do not see the reason why a firstborn would be accorded a right to an asset simply because that person is male and was the first one to be born. I mean, there's no meeting where people meet and discuss who's going to be the first one to be born. It's simply an accident of history or an accident of love, that the one's born first and the other one last. And so it is fairly justifiable into today's world that there's really nothing in religion, there's nothing that bars persons from engaging in economic activities. There's nothing really in that sense. So I would separate that in terms of getting a title deed because you're a man, separate that from economic activities where you generate your own livelihood. Why do I separate that? For some of us, it is part of a culture, part of a way of life that the man-child, because it is a patriarchal system, has been designed as that. We find it like that. So the male child the firstborn would naturally be the one next in line after the father passed on. As far as that is concerned, as far as that happens at the household level, I'm fine with that. I don't have a problem with that. But as far as it goes towards economic activities where one interacts with the broader society, for farms, for example, men and women are entitled to that equally. And I made a suggestion earlier that a child born today, the death certificate should indicate the title deed of that person. In other words, within 18 years' time from now on, that would be an adult, and that adult should be able to walk into a municipal office and ask that he or she be allocated a piece of land, either for purposes of shelter or either for purposes of economic activities, if that person is interested in living off the land. Because not all of us would be interested to live off the land. And in fact, the way we live, it is not even possible that all of us would use that title deed, because some would inherit from their parents, mother, grandmother, or father. Others would simply have to start from scratch. Again, because of nature, people pass away and we don't know who is going to pass away or not. So that the right to have access to land should reside with the people through the law, in other words, through the Constitution. And then your birth certificate should be able to indicate that. And so if the person enters into a relationship or a marriage, that right doesn't get usurped, doesn't get diluted by that relationship. So then a person can always opt out because of abuse or because of people grow apart. That's natural. And in a case of a land, for example, where people are placed on communities, I think they should be given titles. People should get titles to that land And through that land, because they were titles to that land, they can then negotiate with other similar persons to form a cooperative, so that each person, based on their own initiative and their own effort, can be able to contribute, to work together in a group if they so choose, to upscale, to do economies of scale in terms of their production. And if not, they choose to have a subsistence at a basic level for themselves and their family. So they should be able to do that. So I'm not so quite sure whether my suggestions are opposing the bill, but I do suggest that at a local level, there should be formed in order to look at possible problems that will come up, and then to look at possible institutional support for example, for people given land that they need to work for themselves. So that institutional support is still required. So that's why a tribunal at the local level, where transparency, in fact, is part of it, so that those with connections doesn't disadvantage those without connections, because people have fought apartheid, and having fight apartheid, they didn't have a chance to build up resources. So they need.
Can you conclude?
State. Yeah. Thanks. I think let me stop there. Thanks.
Thank you, Bao Selby Nomganga, for your responses. Honorable members, can I invite David to respond to the questions posed by honorable members? David. It seems we may have lost him through network. David. Honorable members, let us try and ascertain if Ndate Nelson Hantise has been able to join us. Ndate Nelson Hantise. Baunkosinati Soka. Baunkosinati Soka. Manyamza and our staff, the content advisors and researchers, can the staff indicate if you've been able to find? Galaxy Manyamza and Yaz.
It's Soga, Chair. He's using Galaxy. Is Mr. Soga? Yes.
Okay. Soga, are you with us? Soga. Nkosinati Soga. Can you confirm if you've been able to join us? Molweni Bausoka. Kosinati Soga. Bau Elfas Kosa, are you joining us to present?
No, sir, I'm an interpreter. I was kicked out of it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any presenters? Bau Kosa, Bau Soka. Kosinati Soga. Have you been able to successfully connect?
Chair?
Yes, madam.
He is struggling to unmute his mic. But there he is, Chair.
Eh?
There he is. He's ready.
If he's ready, he may present, but we don't see him on the system. Pankosinati Soga, please proceed. It says, how are you, Bausoka?
How are you?
We are very well, thank you. Please proceed. You can make your submission.
Can you see me?
We cannot see you, but we can hear you very well. If you can switch on your video, we'll be able to see you.
No, I can't see you.
There, we can see your window. Thank you, Bausoka. You may proceed.
Okay.
Perfect.
To be. Can you hear me? I'm still battling with few things on my side.
Yes, we can hear you. You are visible. You may proceed. Bausoka. Tatu Soka. We seem to have lost him again, honorable members. Honorable members, may I propose that we request the Secretariat and the staff to utilize the afternoon to call our participants and be able to group them in teams of 5 and be able to ensure that they are all aware about their allocated times so that we may be able to start early tomorrow and run a back-to-back program which will fill all the speakers that we have been able to identify. It seems to be a tedious exercise that we are waiting on presenters that are not available due to network, and it might assist us to be able to consolidate those numbers and be able to start in good time tomorrow morning. And I ascertain what your recommendations are if you are in support. Honorable Klabe.
Thanks, Chair. I support that we park it for now and start tomorrow.
Thank you, Honorable Marco.
Honorable Chair, I support the move. Thank you.
Honorable Stein.
Thank you, Chairperson. I also support that. And I think also when contact is made, we need to ensure that we ask the people to stay on until after question sessions. If we slot them, say maybe in an hour time, to say from 9 to 10, they must stay on the line for that time until after we are, if we want to ask questions of clarity. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Mbabama.
I agree with the suggestion, Chair, and if we can please get Dade David Ramu Uwe from Bujanala for tomorrow to answer the questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Matthias. Ntate Matthias. Honorable Mahlatsi.
Thank you very much, Chair. I second the motion by my previous colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you, Ma'am Mahlatsi. Honorable Tapa.
Thank you, Chair. I also support the motion, sir.
Thank you. Honorable Briet.
Chairperson, I also agree. Thanks.
Thank you. Honorable Masipa.
Chair, I agree. I support that we give the administrators to assist us in getting the people for tomorrow. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Honorable members, is there anyone I've missed who would like to also place on record their position? With that, then, honorable members, let me thank all our guests that have been able to join us on this day of public hearings on the upgrading of the Land Tenure Rights Amendment Bill. and we will be proceeding tomorrow with all those that have wished to make submissions. But we would like to thank all those that were able to avail themselves for this session we have had today, and all their submissions have been recorded. The Portfolio Committee on Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development will have enough and lots to be able to deliberate on as we do the amendment to the Ultra Bill. Therefore, want to thank everyone that has been able to be with us, particularly the staff that are living under challenging times, having to live with COVID regulations and these virtual meetings, which are proving to be more and more difficult to getting this work done. But we would want to give you our full support to continue doing the stunning work that you are in ensuring that all our citizens across the landscape of South Africa are able to have their voice heard and that their voices are recorded. We therefore want to thank you, honorable members, for having participated in these public hearings. The meeting stands adjourned. We will convene again tomorrow, 9 o'clock sharp, for the second day of our public hearings. I thank you. Have a wonderful afternoon, and we will rejoin tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
you, Chair. Bye.
Thank you, Chair.
Bye-bye.
You, Honorable Marshall, you are still online.